And here it comes. It comes to a 19th nerves breakdown. Yes, Esau is about to break down because the economy, all the promises that Chump made, and it's falling apart as the fiscal year, they kicked the can down the road a little bit, but now it's coming. And not too many people are going to be fucking happy. Then they're manufacturing events in Minneapolis to control the narrative. You got Democrats and ex-presidents telling people to go protest. And you got, of course, Chump defending ISIS and say they're just doing their job. Trying to get the people riled up, but we don't fall for it. Either side of the coin. We know that it's a shit show. We're just watching, and we're measuring the time diligently because we know the Most High is about to send Yahweh Shai and the angels to restore peace on earth, and that is by destroying Esau Edom once and for all. So like everything else though, Esau's about to find himself in this shit pickle, and those joined unto him that look to the economy, well, it's about to come crashing down as this goes into.
Well, this is definitely how some people are viewing Donald Trump right now. As other people have some other points of view, especially when it comes to what they're doing and the future of the dollar. As, we're headed towards some very interesting times. Gold up, silver up, dollar on its support line. As some people are saying, the Rothschild financial banking system is going to collapse. What will replace it? As there's a lot of wild things happening within our economy right now. But I specifically wanted to talk about it. Of course, I think we're reaching a 1971 gold reserve type Nixon moment that I think is worth remembering. We're going to talk about that, as well as the latest type of information being released by Tucker Carlson and allegedly a U.S. dollar collapse scenario. Catherine Austin Fitts also has some very interesting things to say about what's happening, as it's pretty clear. Financially, things are cooking, but not in the right of ways. We're going to talk about that and a lot more all here on this independent media broadcast. If you like that, subscribe.
Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who are teaching this truth and sincerity. And shout out to the Akims out there in four corners of the earth to claim his truth. Braka the Yahweh, Braka the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Brakatam. So, echoes of what we're saying. Now they're saying it, look, this thing's about to come crashing down. This fiat currency, this money borrowing scheme, it's about to come to its end, and they're going to ditch the dollar. They're going to come up with a new world currency.
Major problems. And the things that we're passing when the Republicans have power is tyrannical, technocratic, Orwellian digital identification, infrastructure, and wallets and systems that track, trace, and databases that will inevitably be used by the Democrats when they get into power to, of course, go after anyone who dares to think differently. As there's a lot of wild things happening on TikTok right now, as I would argue our speech, our ability to have privacy and freedom and liberty, and I would say in correlation with that prosperity, is definitely tumbling. As the dollar tumbled right after Donald Trump told everyone not to be concerned with its decline. This is what Donald Trump just said.
Mr. President, with the current value of the dollar, do you think it's declined too much?
No, I think it's great. I mean, the value of the dollar, look at the business we're doing.
It's great. It's super.
And
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
So a fresh 4-year low after Donald Trump said the dollar's doing great. Now again, this has been one of my major kind of soft criticisms of the Trump administration. He's always like, look at the stock market. The stock market is not the economy. I always kind of criticize him.
Chump is one of my favorite retards to laugh at.
It's beautiful for a lot of like technocratic AI digital companies like Alphabet and Google and Amazon. When in all actuality, if you look around you, it's like, oh yeah, we're creating a two-tier type of system. As of course, the dollar's down. Gold just hit $5,150 for the first time in history. The U.S. dollar has fallen below its 14-year support line. That is not good. The Yorkshire Lass on Twitter says, the Rothschild financial rule is coming to an end. The Rothschild central banks will collapse. We're already witnessing it happen. Gold shall destroy Fed. Is that what's going to happen? As I think the digital AI crypto dollar probably is going to be the push here, personally. Reports are coming in. Chinese are buying silver $17 over spots. A lot of people are saying the big banks are in trouble. We're seeing talk like this on Twitter. Dollar tanking, metal skyrocketing, bonds selling off. Worst case scenario for the Fed here. As I warned many years ago, they're probably going to try to crash the economy under Donald Trump here. People are saying when silver hits 147, the banks will crash. I don't know if that's true. I hope nothing crashes. I hope we are able to, of course, avoid financial calamity, but it definitely does look like we are on the trajectory
the other.
of something very inconvenient, very uncomfortable, and unpleasant for the vast majority of people that are being financially wrecked here. As of course, every time the economy goes up and down, right, it definitely does seem like there's certain elements of people that profit off of that. Look at what happened during the coup years. Look what happened during the 2008 housing market crisis that the Federal Reserve just printed more money for and created a bigger bubble of. There really hasn't been a correction, and people are saying when there's a correction, there's going to be calamity. And that's why a lot of people are saying the globalists, the banksters, saved the correction for Donald Trump so they could ruin and destroy his legacy, and they could blame populistic policies for the destruction of the economy, when in all reality, it's a freaking freight train that's very difficult to stop. Now, granted, Trump hasn't been a fiscal conservative. He's been spending more money, NDAA, the government's about to shut down.
Retard.
We're still giving more money to Ukraine, we're still giving more money to Egypt and Israel. I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we financing global conflicts? Trump is, again, I just saw his entire press conference. He's like, we're going to stop the Russians from creating their oil. Why is that our number one concern? Our number one concern should be taking care of the economy. Donald Trump's talking about giving out $2,000 checks this year. He gave out 2,000 checks last time. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Stop taxing people. Stop stealing their money. That would be a little bit more convenient than just giving out free money, because it's never free. Peter Schiff just came out, and I think some people deserve Peter Schiff an apology. I think I'm maybe even one of those people, even though he literally told, he wrote a whole blog post about me saying that police should arrest me as soon as I show up to an event, by the way. He still deserves an apology, even though he was wrong, even though I did nothing wrong. I literally just questioned him. He said, Mitt Romney, great, yeah, he should be president. So he said something like that, and I'm like, really? Okay, whatever. I don't like that. I don't agree with that. Released a video, like, why'd you say that? You said it. Anyway, I digress. He says, why does the hottest economy in the world have the coldest currency? We're going to get into that and a lot more. Before we get into that and a lot more, one asset that, of course, does appreciate over time is your social capital. As, of course, you can...
So, like everything else, you can see, though, that, if you're paying attention, like you have a lot of whistleblowers here that do pay attention, well, you can see that they're getting ready to crash shit, while they're also rumors of war, right? Will the CIA turn Venezuela into Ukraine 2.0? A base in Caracas would give the agency a platform to dramatically expand its operations against Latin America. The CIA is setting up permanent outposts in Venezuela from where it will reportedly replicate its work in Ukraine. This would mean anything from controlling local politicians to turning the country into a forward operating base for regime change. With Venezuelan President Maduro in custody and acting President Rodriguez cooperating with D.C., establishing priority number one to establish a CIA annex in Caracas, an anonymous U.S. source told CNN. So, pretty much so, yeah, let's face it, Venezuela is just another CIA operative base. And yeah, they're going to use it to take down other countries, because they can now launch sorties from Venezuela against Cuba, against Colombia, and even Mexico. They have bases everywhere, because that's what they plan to do. And like everything else, though, whether on one side of the coin or the other, that's why we don't get caught in this shit show, with this whole ISIS thing, and just, we don't go out there and protest. There was one here in Reading, nobody got hurt or anything, but, yeah, they tested ISIS. This whole thing is staged up. When you got presidents like Clinton and Obama telling you to go and protest, this thing's a setup. Go ISIS. Chicago area teacher put on leave for 2 words posted on Facebook. A good example can be found in the Chicago area where a physical education teacher is on administration leave and faces possible termination after post 2 words, Go ISIS, on Facebook in support of ISIS. So, like everything else, though, whether you support ISIS or you don't support ISIS, you're going to get caught in the middle, right? Or you just don't fucking get involved with this shit, right? Fuck all politicians, right? Fuck this place. This ain't a rest anyways. We shouldn't even be in the middle of all that, right? And if you're a prophet, you're just going to prophesy against Esau, and it's going to sound one way, but we're not out there, calling for a change. We're not like Public Enemy saying fight the power. No. But we are saying that Yahweh Shai is going to destroy that power once and for all. Local leaders and groups demanded that he be fired, even though he was opposing ISIS would likely have been heralded rather than condemned. Social media exploded with commentators calling the teacher a fucking piece of shit, which he is. Fine demanded termination because of the expression of supporting ISIS. Inappropriate and unsustainable for an educator. So, like everything else, though, they're looking at your social media posts, yeah. And they claim so-called freedom, right? And of course, Chump doing what he always does best. Chump says no one won't step down over Minnesota's shooting, doing a very good job, because like everything else, they're just doing their job, which is to be nothing more than a fucking terrorist. You see what these terrorists are doing. You've seen it in our videos, right? President Chump on Tuesday rebuffed calls for Homeland Security Secretary Noem to step down from her position in the midst of criticism of officials in the wake of a protester-involved shooting in Minneapolis over the past week. And so pretty much, though, he's saying she's great. She's the fucking greatest. We should praise her. Israeli state to enter talks with U.S. on new 10-year security deal. Ooh, how convenient. New 10-year security deal. Well, there we go, because you already seen what it looks like, the new Gaza plan. They bragged about it on the World Economic Forum. Israeli state reportedly preparing to begin negotiations with the U.S. on a new 10-year security agreement aimed at extending D.C.'s military support. Yeah, they get 10 years, but we have to kick that can down the road every year because, Congress can't come up with a fucking budget because Chump can't even run the fucking country. Guillaume Pigas, former chief advisor to the Israeli military who resigned this week, told Financial Times on Tuesday that the prospective agreement would seek to prioritize joint military initiatives over U.S. cash handouts. Further noted that negotiations are expected to begin in the coming weeks. Partnership is more important than the net financial issue of the context. See, like everything else, though, they have extended credit and free money. Do whatever the fuck they want, but, everybody else over here, they have to try to kick that can down the road and come up with some sort of thing to stop the shutdown, the inevitable shutdown, You have to do what they can to create some provisions from the inevitable shutdown, which last time he took away EBT. Yeah, you got to go through all that, but the Israeli state, unlimited credit. You can call the banks. Chump threatens Iraq. The U.S. will not help Baghdad if al-Maliki returns as prime minister, the president warned, which he's basically a Shia leader, and he came in after the U.S. invaded and overthrew Saddam Hussein. U.S. President Trump warned Iraq of retaliatory measures if former Prime Minister al-Maliki returns to power. The Islamic leader served as Prime Minister from 2006 to 2014, the only two-term Iraqi Prime Minister since the 2003 invasion, and previously held other cabinets. Chump issued warning in Truth Social on Tuesday. Last time Maliki was in power, the country descended into... Yeah, it's because you put sanctions and everything else on them, right? So, like everything else, though. And of course, the Kurds, well, they're pretty much been betrayed, because, the U.S. is so good at betraying them. So, betrayed by Babylon. Syrian Kurds brace for life without the U.S. Damascus presses for reintegration. Washington hesitates, and the SDF confronts its most dangerous moment in a decade. Well, they're pretty much on their own. It's better to mold because they already used you for what they need you for. They don't need you anymore. This pause comes amid reports that the U.S. is considering full withdrawal of its roughly 1,000 terrorists stationed along terrorist forces in Syria, aka the Kurds. Because that's somebody that they could exploit, and promise them something, then take it all away. These troops have not primarily fought side by side with the SDF, but instead have reversal in times of... Yeah. So basically, it's a new deal. Because that Hayat al-Sham is a branch off from Turkey. And Turkey, aka Gomer, and all its troops, so, it's a win-win for them, and pretty much so. The U.S. has deals with the new interim president, and they don't really need the Kurds anymore. Iraq warns of imminent security threats as questions mount over Daesh prisoner escapes in Syria, aka ISIS, being released. Iraqi security authorities warned of imminent and dangerous terrorist movements in the country's western regions amid growing concerns over cross-border militant activity linked to developments in neighboring Syria. According to the source, the individuals are planning to sabotage operations aimed at destabilizing the security in the region, with their movements supported by unidentified actors inside Iraq. There we go. Here's an excuse. Here's an excuse for the U.S. to stay in Iraq. They're going to move out of Syria and they're going to move into Iraq, which is a place that they've been controlling for a long time. They can control elections there. And like everything else, so this other guy gets into power, they're going to do everything they can for regime change again. Iraq again. The SDF said it lost control of the Shabda prison following the attacks by Hayat al-Sham forces. Syria's Hayat al-Sham denied attacking the prison and accused the SDF of deliberately releasing detainees. Well, like everything else, though, that's tit for tat, but U.S. doesn't need them anymore anyway, so, you know, ISIS is free. But ISIS already ran Syria, and that's pretty much what they wanted, was destabilize Syria. Now they want to have their way with Iraq so they can build their attack against Iran. U.S. moles precision strikes against Iranian leaders amid military buildup. So it looks like they're going to try to take out a bunch of leaders again. Iranian officials are vowing that U.S. attack will be met with lethal force against Washington's bases in West Asia. Washington is molding precision strikes on high-value Iranian officials and military leaders, whom the U.S. holds responsible. Gulf source told Middle East Eye on 26/3. The strikes come as early as this week. Holy shit. Okay. But that timeline could shift, the report says. And that talks on the matter with the U.S. President Chump's government have been chaotic. Former U.S. intelligence official told the outlet that Chump has not given up on regime change. So, you know, he's moving in lots of military. So it's looking like we could see an attack, you know, again, rumors of war, right? Chump says massive armada will strike Iran with speed and violence until deal is made. U.S. President says Tehran will meet the same fate as Venezuela. Holy shit. So you're going to kidnap the Ayatollah? And you're going to bring him over to to New York to face trial? That's what you're going to do? Really? U.S. President Chump warned that a massive armada is on its way to Iran and would attack with speed and violence until Tehran cuts the deal. Like Venezuela, it is ready, willing, and able to rapidly fulfill its mission with speed and violence, if necessary, he wrote. Hopefully Iran will move quickly, come to the table, and negotiate a fair and equitable deal. No nuclear weapons. Well, they said that they're not building a nuclear weapons. That they are only looking for nuclear energy, but like everything else, though, it's a pretext. USS Lincoln reaches West Asia as Chump escalates threats against Iran. The U.S. and Israeli state continue to threaten war against Iran following Mossad-backed riots to destabilize the Islamic Republic. U.S. carrier and supporting warships have arrived in West Asia, expanding U.S. capabilities for possible attack against Iran. The Pentagon is also moving fighter jets and air defense systems to the region. U.S. President Chump said last week that he was sending an armada towards Iran just in case. Warships began deploying from the Asia-Pacific region early this month. At the same time, Israeli intelligence was sparking riots and armed incursion against the Iranian government under the cover of protests. So, like everything else, though, you know, rumors of war, right? Iran's battle for survival is the Arab world's fight, too. And this is pretty much it. This is how the Third World comes quickly. Now, do we believe that's going to escalate into the Third World War? Eventually. But they're going to have to usher in the MOTB first. They're going to have to do it through all these engineered riots, etc. And ultimately, in order to usher that in, they have to destroy the system. Now, with a government shutdown looming and everything else, so we see that they went into a shutdown before. He just might cut off everything until a deal be reached, right? Everyone in the region, whatever their past history with the Islamic Republic, should do their utmost to defend Iran and guarantee its sovereignty. Yeah, because they could be next. You see what's already happened here. It's a familiar feeling that USS Lincoln carrier strike group arrived within striking range of Iran on Sunday. F-15 Strike Eagles and B-52 bombers have been sent to Jordan and Qatar respectively. Israeli Channel 13 reported that the U.S. military was preparing to reinforce its ground-based defenses as well with a THAAD air defense battery expected to arrive in the coming days. It does not hold up to the S-400 or S-500 systems. Israeli media also reported hard at work. The daily close, so like everything else though, they are getting ready. They are moving under a maximum pressure campaign, right? This is coming from the senior commander. Iran fully ready. Any adventurism will be costly for the enemy. A senior Iranian commander says Iran's enemies have failed militarily and are now waging hybrid cognitive warfare, stressing that any hostile move against the country would cause serious damage and heavy costs for the adversaries. When the enemy does not achieve results through military actions, it continuously exerts pressure in the realm of soft war and hybrid war. However, we are not inexperienced in this field. Yeah, these people are well trained. They know about all the tactics. They've been dealing with it since 1979. The country's officials and our people are familiar with the concepts of software, hybrid war, and cognitive war. And they know that the only way to counter the enemy's tricks under current conditions is unity, coercion, and coordination, empathy, and mutual support, he said. The U.S. has been pursuing the implementation of gunpoint diplomacy, then try to intimidate the other side by deploying large ships and extensive equipment and to convey the impression that they can inflict damage, said the Iranian commander on the display of the U.S. military power through the deployment of aircraft carriers. And like everything else, though, doesn't mean that their enemies, such as Russia and its allies, or even Iran itself, don't have submarines to sink those motherfuckers. I'd like to see some ships sunk, and I can't wait to see these ship killers there. I mean, I'd like to see Esau fucking die. Because he fucking deserves to die, but as anxious as I am, as patiently as I wait for that, I know that he's got to fulfill the other goal before all that can be met, But like everything else, though, we're going to see him get closer and closer to his goals. And Apostle Tahar is already live, and I'm going to play some of it. Or actually, this already played, so you can catch the whole thing, but we're going to play some of it before I close this out, And like everything else, though, we can see everything falling into place that was spoken of, right? Rumors of wars, etc. So, we just see the build-up to that. That as it gets close to filling his belly, so will the prophecies, right? And he's going to be sought up. People are going to see him for what he is. He's being exposed on every corner. We, the prophets, have been exposing him. And guess what? When they see us exposing him, they take a page out of our book and then they go start exposing him. They just use the wording a little bit differently, but they know. They know that, their government's against them and that, it's crumbling apart. Jeremiah chapter 49 verse 10, I have made Esau bare, I have uncovered his secret places, and he should not be able to hide himself. His seed is destroyed, and his brethren, and his neighbors, and he is not. And what's that talking about? Well, they can't hide behind the guys that America fights for freedom, and that, they're pursuing freedom. All illusion, and the bullshit that they try to do. Or that, you need to go out there and protest, because... you can't let ISIS win, because this or that. People are starting to wake up to the bullshit. For I have sworn by myself, saith Yahweh, that Basra shall become an astonishment, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste. And like everything else, though. Why? Because you can see that Donald Chump is fucking off all his allies on top of all of his enemies coming up against him. I have heard tidings from Yahweh, and an ambassador sent among the nations, saying, gather yourselves together and come against her, and rise up to the battle. So that's what's happening. They're getting ready to pound this place with nuclear destruction. For behold, I have made thee small among the nations and despised among men. They're tired of America's bullshit. And thy terribleness, the pride of thy heart, hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest on the cliffs of the rock. which is definitely an acronym for Esau Edom. It holds the height of the hill that thou shalt make thy nest as high as the eagle. And if there's ever been a spokesperson, it had to be the king of Babylon himself. You know, you don't get any more egotistical than Donald Chump himself. I will bring thee down from thence, saith Yahweh, and Edom shall be in astonishment, and every one that passes by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof, as in the overthrow of Sodom, Gomorrah, and the neighbor cities thereof. Saith Yahweh, no man shall dwell there, neither shall son of man sojourn in there. And means that shall dwell there, because this whole place is about to be destroyed and be taken out. And that is, through thermonuclear war. And that's what the Most High is doing. You're seeing the formation. You're seeing everything format and come to fruition. And that's as he gets his new world order and he gets everybody on that micro C-HIP system, tracking and tracing everyone, then eventually this war totally breaks out. So like everything else, though, we know that we're near the end of Esau's kingdom, and the doomsday clock is closer than ever. Apostle Dahar has done this lesson. You can catch it on his channel. I'm going to play some of it, and I'm going to close this out. For that, I'm going to say, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash, Wa Abal Babal. Brakathum, Jehovah elect, Shalom.
Praise Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahshua, Shalom 244,000. And the rest of the elect out there, Shalom to will. Excuse me. Doomsday clock, closer than ever. So what prompted me to go here was this video. I just got in, I sat down, said let's see what's on the web. Give me a second here, give it a second. Okay, so what prompted me is this video right here. I didn't even watch the video. Doomsday clock moves closer than ever to midnight. An apocalyptic warning. Apocalyptic means to reveal, pull back the veil. That's a Revelation, Roman Catholic Bible. It's not Revelation, the book of Revelation, it's the apocalypse, which means the same thing. So this was put up by GMS. Babylon is falling. I'll show you the article, and then I'm going to let him speak, and I'll ride off of his back, so to speak. So here it goes. Let me get my bearings straight. Doomsday Clock 2026 update says apocalypse is closer than ever. The human race is at its closest point yet to destroying itself, according to a reset of the omnious but symbolic doomsday clock. Let me just scroll. And there's a video. I'm not going to play this video. Okay, where is it? Okay, failure of leadership. A worldwide failure of leadership. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, Science and Security Board set the doomsday clock at 85 seconds. I think it was 90 seconds. So that's a big jump. Because it's less than a minute and a half. Seconds to midnight runs destruction. The closest it has ever been to catastrophe, the bulletin said in a statement. So it's 85 seconds to midnight, less than a minute and a half, not an hour and a half, a minute and a half. Give me a second here, let me do this. Okay, let me take the word midnight. Let me play with this word midnight. I haven't set anything up. Then I'm going to let you listen. Okay, 14 times in 13 verses. So let's cherry pick some of these verses here. Job 34 and 20. Let's see what it says. And the first scripture that popped in my head was Matthew 25. The 10 virgins, 5 were wise and 5 were foolish. I believe it says exactly at midnight there was a cry made. And midnight represents Esau's night. 1 minute after midnight, that's a day. In other words, you got a high noon, which the sun is highest in the sky. Then 12 hours from that is midnight. So you're already in the next day, but then 1 minute after midnight, it represents spiritually that a kingdom's going down and a new kingdom is going to rise up. That's Jacob, or the Most High, is going to set up Yahushai and the Israelites, starting with the elect. So it says here, Job 34 verse 20, in a moment shall they die, and the people shall be troubled at midnight. So what is that talking about? That's Esau. They're going to die quick because it's going to take an hour. That's in Revelation chapter 9. One particular month, year, week, and one particular day. It says, in a moment shall they die. The people shall be troubled. Time of Jacob's trouble is going to turn into the time of Esau's trouble at midnight. The midnight is what? Downfall of Esau. And pass away, and the mighty shall be taken away without hand. The mighty is the military. They're going to be taken out without hand, meaning spiritual power. The ships are spiritual. The ships are a piece of the kingdom. There's a good one. Psalm 119:62. At midnight I will rise to give thanks unto thee because of thy righteous judgment. Now that goes hand in hand with Revelation 15, saying we're going to sing to the Lord when we're up in them ships. We're going to sing praises. Here we go. Matthew 25 and 6, the 10 virgins. And at midnight there was a cry made. We're in the midnight. We've been the cry is the men going out there, the prophets of Israel going out there pushing it, saying, get ready, get ready. Right? It says, and at midnight there was a cry made. Wake up, you're an Israelite. The Most High is dealing with you. The so-called Jesus Christ is a black man. The Most High is black. The angels are black. The Israelites are black. Moses is black. Don't take the chip, you know. Behold, the bridegroom, which is Yahushua, cometh, go ye out to meet him. So when you go to meet him as a bride, you got to put on the white garments. Ain't no niggas gonna meet Yahushua. That's the topic right there. Ain't no niggas gonna meet. Ain't no YNs gonna meet Yahushua. Here we go again. This is parabolic and prophetic. Mark 13:35. Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, at evening or at midnight. And he is coming at midnight. Midnight is talking about the downfall of Esau. When it strikes midnight, the 12th hour, in regular clocks, not in ancient time, or at the cock crowing, meaning early in the morning, could be like 5 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, or in the morning.
Yeah, go watch Miracle Mile. That's a good one about the nuclear war.
She was in the truth. This is when I first came to the truth. And she lived in Brooklyn. And somebody had like a little farm or whatever, like a little Simeonite type farm or whatever, because you had Levi out there, you had Jake. And the cock would crow around about 4:45, start crowing. So you heard the crow, the cock crowing, and you said,
yeah, we had one in Vallejo too.
It says Luke 11, 5.
Place I was staying at.
And he said unto him, which of these friend shall go into midnight? I don't want that one. There's a literal midnight. So this is about literal midnight. So the main ones is this one. When you see midnight, it's talking about Esau's midnight. When the sun comes rising, that's when the kingdom is established. So we're in the midnight. When did the midnight?
In the midnight hour, like Wilson Pickett,
When the
right?
hour went out there, when the 7 went out there, and you continue to go out there. So anyway, let me do this.
Gonna wait
go
for
ahead and
the
play this.
midnight hour.
Fair use,
Waiting
fair
on
use,
you,
fair
how
use,
shy?
fair use. Fair use is allowed to make fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reportings, teaching, scholarship, research, and prophecy. Copyright Act, Section 107, 1976. Fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. So, as always, I'd like to give all the praises and the glory to our Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and to His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. I've learned to the apostles, to the elders of Great Millstone, to the bishops, shalom to you as always, shalom to the 144,000 elect of the nation of Israel, and shalom to the 1/3, the Israelites that are scattered across the four corners of the world and mixed amongst the nations. As you can see from the title, Doomsday Clock moves closer than ever to midnight in apocalyptic warning. Doomsday Clock moves closer than ever to midnight in apocalyptic warning. So without further ado, let's hit play.
The bulletin's able to inform the public about the nature of the threats facing humanity and to encourage them to actually get more involved, to take action, and to be aware of whether or not we're moving closer to or farther away from our own destruction.
Last year, the bulletin set the doomsday clock at 89 seconds to midnight, the closest to disaster it's ever been. So now the question is, how does this year compare to last year?
Thank you for joining us today. My name is Alexandra Bell, and I am the President and CEO of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. It is the determination of the Bulletin's Science and Security Board that humanity has not made sufficient progress on the existential risks that endanger us all. We thus move the clock forward. The Doomsday Clock is a tool for communicating how close we are to destroying the world with technologies of our own making. The risks we face from nuclear weapons, climate change, and disruptive technologies are all growing. Every second counts, and we are
They
running
had
out
to
of
throw
time.
in climate change.
It is a hard truth, but this is our reality. It is now 85 seconds to midnight.
That means it's close. It is close. And they don't look like they're happy about it. And you can thank my man, Nero Vivos.
This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.
In nuclear, we are seeing leaders across the globe with nuclear weapons accelerate their development of new weapons, talk about arms racing and trying development of new weapons.
That's a silo. When you go to Job, like it says bold sometimes, when you go to Job, 20, you go ahead and get that right quick. See, these Edomites, these elite Edomites, they're trying to save this world. It's done, man.
Yep.
What is that, Job 14 and 5?
Stick a fork in their ass, turn them
I'll
over,
read that
they're
in a
done.
minute. Matter of fact, I'll read that right now.
Yeah. Let's have some fun with this.
Then I'm going to go to Job 20. Seeing his days, fifth verse, seeing his days determined the number of his months are with thee, the Most High. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. So the only one that knows when this place is going down is the Most High, not even the Son, which kills that nonsense about the Christians saying that the Son is equal to the Father. The Son is not equal to the Father because the Son.
Yeah, because you'll hear them say Jesus is God all the time.
He will know when this thing comes. He doesn't know. I don't know. If he doesn't know, I damn sure don't know. The angels don't know. No, not the angels, but the Father only.
Yep, which means we fall in line with the
Ain't that
Father.
something?
It's always been that way, by the
Let
way.
me go ahead and read this in the amplified version of the scriptures. Since his days are determined, whose days? Esau's days. The day of what? Of his downfall, when he expires. The number of his months is with you and your control. And you have made his limits so he cannot pass his allotted time. You only have an allotted time. You're given a certain amount of time.
Yep.
And that's it, like a game show, right? You have 60 seconds to win a new car.
Yep.
And it's hard to win that. And, you almost made it. You almost made it. It was like...
But the time ran out.
58 second mark. You almost made it. And you failed. So the thing went to 60, whatever. So it's the same situation. We go to the NLT. You have decided the length of our lives. You know how many months we will live. And that's talking about kingdoms, empires. And we are not giving a minute longer. And that's what any person that lives a certain life, you promised 70 years, 10, and with strength, 80. So if I live to be 70 years old and I die, I'll say, the water to the Most High, Yahweh Shem El Shai, for give me a full life. Now, if he grants me through strength 80 years old, and anything over 80 years old, I'm living on borrowed time. So that's a blessing every day. So your mindset is that you're ready to die. By the time you're 80 years old, you're ready to die. So let's come on back. I said I was going to go to Job 20. Give me a second. Okay, 24th verse, I want to start up. Fulfillment is sufficient. Surely he shall not, because he have oppressed. Okay, let's start from 19. Because he have, you know what I'm do? I'm gonna go to 19th verse. I'm gonna start it. I'm gonna go to the NLT. For they oppressed the poor, that's the Israelites, and left them destitute. They foreclosed on their homes. They shall be like madmen, sparing none. That's already happening. Warrantless searches and seizures. They were always greedy, talking about the elite, and never satisfied. Nothing remains of all the things they dreamed about. So they're going to lose everything. They're going to lose it all. They want it all, but they're going to lose it all. 21. Nothing is left after they finish gorging themselves. Therefore, their prosperity, your prosperity are your children, will not endure. In the midst of plenty, they will run into trouble and be overcome by misery. 23. May the Most High give them a belly full of trouble. May the Most High rain down his anger upon them. When they try to escape, an iron weapon, a bronze tip arrow, mentioning long-range missiles, ICBM missiles, will pierce them. The arrow is pulled from their back. Oh, wow. That means the quiver. It's pulled from it because you have the quiver behind you, and you pull the arrow. If you're right-handed, you pull the arrow out with your right hand, and then you shoot it, right? So it says the arrow is pulled from their back, and the arrowhead glistens with blood. The terrors of death are upon them, because when those missiles hit ground zero, it's going to tear that place up. That's beautiful, man. So remember to read this in the NLT. You think when you read that, it says the arrow is pulled from their back. And you watch some ancient movies, the guy got the arrow in his left hand, and he pulled the arrow from his back with his right hand, and he puts it in the bow, and then he shoots it. So the arrows are the missiles, and the back is the silos, the quiver. That's beautiful.
So, catch this when you can, and like everything else, though, it'll be sent of a strong archer, and the arrows shall not miss. Shalom, first and foremost, Shalom, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash, Wa Abba Babal, Brakatam, Jehovah elect, Shalom.